words preparation, preparation, preparation. One cannot be too well prepared for entering into negotiations. Well, once we have done all the preparation that we have opportunity to do, we must step back here and do a little bit of analysis. There are at least 3 modes of negotiations, 3 approaches to negotiations. You will find that by your personal nature, your cultural structure, that one of these 3 is most like you. But it's important, of course, that you understand these 3 patterns, these 3 approaches to negotiations, because although you might not be a competitive person, you might be one of the other 2 categories, it's entirely possible that the other party with whom you are negotiating indeed is extremely competitive. Thus, you must understand that and not simply react against it. Well, what characterizes competitive behavior in connection with negotiations? High opening demands, that is, if you are simply selling goods, start with an extraordinarily high sales price if you are the seller. One which you know the other party will not pay, but one in which you believe will, after negotiations, give your client the greatest return possible. Conceal information. Do not disclose everything that you know. Again, we often observe this in certain games. I'm sure you're all probably familiar, at least, with the American game of poker. You may not have played it. But often people bluff. They may have a hand which, if played, would not be able to win. But nonetheless, by appearing to have a good hand, by being willing to wager vast amounts of money on what indeed is a weak hand, one may fool the other party into surrendering in that particular hand of poker. Some people negotiate that way as a matter of course. Such people also are argumentative, threatening, not necessarily, of course, physically, but threatening to break off the negotiations, to bring them to a conclusion. The use of deadlines to increase the pressure on the negotiating process is a pattern of behavior in which some people engage. Simple inflexibility, a response that I had when trying to negotiate with some people in particular areas of practice, and when I was an attorney, was inflexibility. No matter what question you asked the other party, no matter what suggestion you made, you quickly found the only answer was no. Well, that is the pattern that some people involve in looking at negotiations. They are looking for every possible advantage. And that is a style of negotiation which may characterize some of you. It is not necessarily bad, but even if it is not one which you find congenial, it is one that you may face in the course of your professional lives. Yes, one more ahead, I'm sorry. Yes, this is the one I was talking about. This indeed is the one I just discussed. I'm sorry for not having coordinated my remarks with the slide. That's my fault, it's not that of anyone else. But let's move on to cooperative behavior, another style of negotiation. Again, here, these are 5 characteristics. There could be more, there could be less, but nonetheless, let's review them briefly. A cooperative style of negotiations makes reasonable and moderate demands. It looks to advance both parties' underlying interests if possible. A cooperative negotiator is one that suggests reasonable compromises when points of tension are reached, and bases his or her proposals not on the most extreme position, but rather on objective standards which are more likely to lead to an amicable solution to the matter under negotiation. The third style is one that can be called the problem-solving approach. The problem-solving approach starts even before formal negotiations begin and involves the exchange of information, involves communicating one's own client's underlying interest to the other party. One does not so hide the ball, as an expression used in America. One does not conceal information. One reveals as much as possible in hopes of treating the negotiating opportunities as a means to solve a problem, not means simply to vindicate the client's interests. The perception of a problem-solving negotiator is acting as a partner, as an affiliate, as a colleague to the person representing the other side's interests. And finally, looking for ways to meet both parties' interests characterizes a problem-solving approach. Now remember, I said that you will run into people characterized by one or another of these approaches. All three can be very useful. And let me give you an example from my own experience. For many years, I was engaged in the practice of law in the American bankruptcy system. Now, in America, you may or may not know this, insolvency law broadly is much broader than in any other country in the world. So many matters are handled in our bankruptcy system, matters that would be handled administratively in every other country. Nonetheless, we handle it in a judicial form. Of course, in any event of insolvency, we know there is a serious problem. The serious problem is that the insolvent entity has insufficient assets to discharge all of its debts and liabilities. Had it sufficient assets, it would not be insolvent. So by definition, we do not have enough money to go around to satisfy the interests of all who assert claims. I had a partner in my practice who was competitive. Maybe I'll rephrase that, who was highly competitive, whose approach was in every respect, in fact, let's go back, in every respect, fills each of these 6 points. He was make extraordinarily high opening demands, he would conceal information, he was argumentative, threatening, he was inflexible in all of these respects. In other words, most of us would not enjoy negotiating with him. Well, that is the kind of person he was.